I have friends who try to sit down and talk to their parents about it, and it's almost like something that they are in denial about as they're alive, because you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to talk about death. You don't want to talk about what's going to happen afterwards. And I think some people think, well, I'm going to be dead, so what's the big deal? But the thing is you're leaving so much behind for other people to have to decide and take care of. And when you're grieving and when you're sad, it's, again, a terrible situation to be put in. My mother passed away in the hospital, so time of death was immediately called and notated. For people, when it's, heaven forbid, an accident or they're at home, you need to go ahead and make sure there's someone to basically call your loved one's time of death, because that's what will be put on the death certificate, and that is what kind of officially starts the next process. Once she had been cremated, then we had to wait for the ashes to come back. They do ask you how many copies of the death certificate you would like. We did 8. Many of the places that require a death certificate, like insurance companies and banks, different services, whether your loved one was part of a retirement account, they want to know. A really hard part is when you've got to make those phone calls and you've got to notify family members that your loved one passed. I had to call my cousins, who some years back had lost their mother. And my mom was kind of like the last of the generation left in our family that knew the history, that knew the backstories. And so I knew this was going to be hard for them to hear. The one thing that ends up being like really difficult is once you feel like you can take that breath, and I felt like I could breathe, I realized there were so many people I had to call and reach out to. And it's hard because there were friends that were keeping up with me, and so we had like a message, text message chain running. So at least they were aware, and I could send one text and hit like 5 people. Because the thing is, having to repeatedly say to people, she's gone, she passed away, and giving them the information was actually draining and wearing more on me, because I was still like in that fog of denial. And the more people I had to reach out and tell that she had passed, the more it became a reality. And the more I was going to have to confront that and deal with that. I was thankful that my boyfriend Phil was able to contact a lot of people and talk to a lot of people. Friends my mom had, I reached out to them to let them know. And the nice thing is the people that come out to help. When you've got a family and you've got brothers and sisters or other people that are around, it never makes anything easier, but you've got resources and people to help. I'm an only child, so it was just me and Phil and my son Connor having to try and navigate this. And it was unlike anything that we've had to deal with before. So once the calls were done, that was another chance to actually take a breath and breathe for a little bit. And it's hard because you want to take care of everything. At least I did by myself for my mom, and found that a lot of people that want to help, that I needed to let them help, that I needed to back off and say, okay. My best friend, who was going to come down and visit and go with us to my mom's property in Virginia. And I'm like, no, no, no. And she goes, you have no choice. I'm just coming. And you need to let that happen. I needed to not be so stubborn and feel like I had to take care of everything myself, because honestly, it really is a lot that weighs on you. And you can't address your own sadness and your own grief when you try and mask it and hide it behind everything you have to do. So once everybody was notified and we had that taken care of, the next step came, which was, how are we going to memorialize her? Now, my mom did not have a standard church she went to, or a minister or a pastor or anybody she talked to. But she had faith. She believed in God. She would yell at us every time we'd use the Lord's name in vain for whatever reason. So she believed. And she knew there was another place that she was going to go. But my mom wasn't big into going to church. She didn't have like a pastor or minister or anybody she would talk to regularly. But she touched so many people's lives, even people that just talked to her briefly. So we wanted to give her a memorial. And we decided to do a celebration of life service. We found a wonderful place with a beautiful view. There were 60 people that came. Close friends of ours who were supporting us through everything we were dealing with. And like I said, people who had known my mom all the years that she's been out here. We had food. I made a video, and that was nice to do. It was nice to flash back and go through photos and just put the memories we had together. And so many people said just beautiful things about my mom. And you could really tell how many lives she touched. It was going to be difficult because there was also a memorial I had to plan in Virginia. Because she did have friends and people back there that still cared about her. But it was nowhere near how many people came in support for her out here. I remember a friend was looking out a window and everybody would wonder if she'd had too much to drink. I said, Kel, what are you looking for out there? And she said, when my grandmother passed and when my father passed, a hummingbird came. And it's a spiritual sign, and it means that they're there. And she goes, so I was looking for the hummingbird. I'm like, well, did you see one? She goes, I did. So everyone said they felt my mom that day in that room. So hopefully she was happy with how it turned out. Although it just still sucks because you don't want to have to be there honoring your loved one. You want them with you. Now, in the month before the memorial, it was a whirlwind. There were a million things going on at once. And I looked at the list of everything I had to take care of. And luckily, my mom had sat down with me. Many, many, many years ago, she had wanted to sit down and go over her will and wishes and what would have to be done once she had passed. And when I was younger, I didn't want to hear that. I don't want to talk about my mom's death. I don't want to know that she's not going to be here. So we kind of put it on a back burner. But after the first surgery that she had for her liver, I was like, okay, we need to sit down. Because when she was in that surgery and it was like 9 hours, I was terrified. I had no idea what to do. I didn't even know where I would start, let alone what her wishes were or where anything was or what I needed to take care of. It's just because you don't think about it. I never sat and thought about, well, what happens if my mom's gone? because I just didn't expect her to be gone. This is love, death, grief, and everything in between. Hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell to stay up to date on all new videos. Until next time, lean into your grief and accept the tears whenever they decide to come. But above all else, embrace the love and the laughter and the memories that you're going to find along the way.